Hello and welcome to our next episode of Film Bouillabaisse. My name is Allison Parker.
And I'm Logan Albright.
So today we are here to talk about a brand new release. We are now up to date. It's the sequel to the breakaway Blumhouse hit Happy Death Day. Happy Death Day to You.
That's true. I saw it as well.
So whenever we have the opportunity to both see a film, we get really excited. Our Venn diagram of films we both watch is not as big as you might think. So horror tends to be that purple area of the Venn diagram. So even though this is not a horror channel, sometimes the things we both review are, unless there's any good musical or artist biopics out.
It's mainly because I'm a cranky old man who refuses to see anything new unless it's a horror movie.
So I saw this film Friday night, and when you saw it Saturday afternoon or morning.
Saturday morning, in fact.
So how does seeing a horror film fresh in the morning impact your perception of it?
Well, it's interesting you should ask that because I don't even really think that Happy Death Day to You is a horror film. Happy Death Day, the first one, definitely a horror film. But I'm getting slightly ahead of myself. But Happy Death Day to You, it had a bit of a genre shift, don't you think?
I do think you are getting ahead of yourself, yes.
I didn't think it was scary in the morning, but I don't think I would have thought it was scary in the evening either.
It's very odd when you go see a horror film and you come out and it's still bright outside. Because didn't you see it at like 10:30 in the morning?
Yeah.
So when you come out, it was really bright. It was lunchtime. I remember being a little kid when Beetlejuice came out and my dad took me and I thought it was the scariest film I had basically ever seen. And I came out and it was just such cognitive dissonance when you come out and it's bright outside.
I didn't think Beetlejuice was all that scary.
Well, maybe you didn't see it as young as I did. But anyway, I saw it on Friday night. I actually saw a double feature. So I saw it before the kind of spoofy romantic comedy film Isn't It Romantic? But I don't think that really impacted my viewing. Now, I saw it with some friends. Did you? Or did you see it alone? And how did that impact your viewing?
I saw it alone, and there were very few people in the theater. It was pretty much just me and like two other people. And I thought it was a great viewing experience. That's the way I like to watch movies, by myself without anyone else bothering me. So I had a good time watching it.
Do you like seeing horror films in the theater because of the audience's collective reaction?
Yeah, I do actually. I usually get really annoyed if people are talking through movies or making noise and stuff. I like to watch them in silence. But with a campy horror movie, it's fun to see it in a room full of people when everyone's shouting like, "Don't look behind you! Don't go up the stairs!" All that kind of thing. I think that's kind of fun.
What I like is when there's a big surprise and it's not only you that jumps, but you can feel other people being startled by the action. There were a couple of moments though in this film, getting back to let's go back to what you were saying, that you didn't find this to be a horror film or scary. There were a couple of moments of real tension where I was nervous about what was happening.
Yeah, there were a few. Certainly not as many as the first one. I think the focus on the second one was much more kind of comedic. They were really focusing on kind of the commentary, the meta commentary on the genre that they were playing around in, and they were more focused on kind of making jokes about the first movie. So I thought it was a much more campy and fun horror movie instead of a straightforward slasher fic.
So Happy Death Day and Happy Death Day to You are basically Groundhog Day, but with a slasher. So the woman has to find out who's killing her. Her name is Tree. She's a college student or maybe a grad student. She has to find out who's killing her and why. And it's more complicated than you think. And what's particularly frustrating is that when she dies, the day will reset. She retains her memories, but everyone around her that's been aiding her, she has to continually catch them up. So it's kind of the reverse of 50 First Dates, where she has to explain to everyone like, oh, I'm trapped in this day. Do you think that people are too ready to believe her in both of these films, that she's living this existence?
Well, I thought about that, and it's like she proved it in the first one by predicting what was going to happen before it happened. But, you can't show that every single time. It gets boring for the audience. So you kind of have to have a shortcut to where you just have to assume people are going to believe her after a while, because otherwise you're showing the audience over and over and over again her laboriously demonstrating how she knows that it's the same day over and over again. So I was willing to suspend my disbelief on that.
Yeah, they make it as painless as possible. There's going to be some repetition, but it's only to like train you to look for the differences in the film. I never felt like, they don't show the whole sequence, for instance, every time there's something different. You know what to look for.
Yeah, I mean, if you've seen Groundhog Day, it's the same type of thing. The first repetition, you see the whole day. Second repetition, they cut some things out and have some shortcuts, and that's fine. and then there's some slight differences that start to creep in, and you get to notice those, and that's a lot of fun to watch.
So there's this song that plays at the very beginning of the day reset, and so you hear it if you've watched both films, especially in rapid succession like you did, where you get real tired of that song. Did you get song fatigue?
Yeah, it was I Got You Babe by Sonny and Cher. That over and over again every morning when he wakes up. Bad.
That's Groundhog Day.
Oh, right. Sorry, I get confused.
There's a new Netflix film too out. I mean, obviously this film, Happy Death Day 2, it gets its origin and some of his inspiration. It's a slasher, Groundhog Day 2. But there's also a new show on Netflix that people have been raving about that I've not seen yet called Russian Doll, starring Natasha Lyonne. So I'm probably going to check that out. Well, I didn't mind a genre bender film. I love that, especially when it's a horror film. I think my favorite example of that is Cabin in the Woods that came out about 7 years ago. You saw that?
Yeah, I saw Cabin in the Woods.
There's a couple of moments in this that were very heartfelt and poignant. Did you feel the same way about that I did?
Totally, and like I was saying, I think I want to say that I really thought this was a successful, good sequel, because what most sequels do, especially in the horror genre, is they do the same plot with different characters, or they do the same characters with a very, very slightly altered plot. This was a completely different style of movie. I thought it was much more sci-fi comedy than it was horror, but there's also some really kind of good drama moments in there. There were some heartwarming moments, and it expanded on the original story, and it was a different plot, same characters, but from a different point of view, a lot of it. And I thought, like, all movie sequels should be like this movie sequel was. People could learn a lot. Aspiring filmmakers could learn a lot from watching this type of movie sequel in a way that you really add something to the original that wasn't there.
So I've pulled some of my friends that have seen this. I saw it with a group of, I think, 4 or 5 folks. And then 2 of my other friends that I saw a movie with last night, they had seen it too. So 2 of us were very jazzed about the film. 2 of us liked it but didn't love it, and 2 were rather tepid on it. Where do you fit in that spectrum?
I was very jazzed about it. I was actually pleasantly surprised. I was expecting it to be basically the same as the first one, like, different killer but same plot. And the fact that it was so different and so funny really pleased me, and I was surprised at how much I liked it.
Very jazzed about it, Logan Albright. It's a great quote. I love the character of Danielle. Now, she's not anybody I would hang out with in real life. It's not somebody that I think is a role model or a great person, but the character is so campy and over the top that I just love watching her. And when I saw that she was back for the sequel, I was really excited. Do you like Danielle?
Danielle was hilarious. Danielle's a great character. She's that type of, alpha sorority girl who everyone loves to hate, and she does it. Whoever the actress is performs it brilliantly. I really like that. Do you think this? By the way, do you know? I don't know, but this, like the matches of the first movie, matching the scenery, the clothing, the costumes, the hairstyles was so spot on. Was this filmed at the same time as the first one, or did they film the first one and wait a year to film the second one? Because if they did, that's impressive.
They did. They waited, and a lot of times movie production companies, they will keep their set pieces. They will keep wardrobe. Sometimes they will let the actors take one piece of their favorite item, but something like that long sleeve shirt that Tree is wearing at the beginning, it's a band shirt. I couldn't quite ever zero in on what it was, but she probably had multiple versions of that shirt when they were filming the first one, because something could happen to it. You probably not only have separate mini copies of the same shirt, but at different stages. So if the shirt gets ripped, if it gets stained, if it gets blood on it, anything, she has to cut off a part to suture up somebody's wound. All of these things are to be taken into account of. So as much as she wears that shirt, there may have been 50 copies. So they probably would have hung on to that many. I
would have hated to be the continuity person on this movie.
Absolutely.
Making sure everything is exactly the same for every repetition be really a lot of work.
So she starts the movie wearing the same shirt, not a big spoiler, and I like that as the days are starting to reset, she's like, I am getting out of these clothes. And as an audience, you kind of are glad, because you've spent so many hours looking at her in this shirt. You can see all of her other cute hairstyles and different wardrobe choices, because she certainly has some cute pieces too that she'll bring out into rotation. If you go and see this film and you haven't already, make sure that you stick around for a special Easter egg scene at the close, because there's about maybe a 2-minute scene at the end.
Yeah, it's not after like the full credits, but there's a little animated credit sequence that's not very long, and then after that there's a kind of a special hidden scene, but definitely worth seeing.
So I happened onto this credit sequence just because our group was very slow to pack up and leave, and it started to come on and we immediately all sat down, and then I told everyone I knew that was seeing it, like, stay for after. Do you think if I hadn't told you to stay that you would have missed?
No, I always stay for the full credits of every movie I go. I regard the credits as part of the film, and there's so often, especially with like Marvel movies and stuff, there's so often something after the credits that I always stay to the end.
Well, and just to be clear, I was going to bring up Marvel as well, because they're known for having that cameo at the end that usually, but not always, gives you a hint about a future episode of the MCU. It's not like that though. It's a full-on couple of scenes, if not maybe 3 or 4 scenes. It's several minutes long.
Yeah, it's a long one. It's not just one quick flash. Another thing I liked about the sequel, Happy Death Day to You, is that, like, when I watched the first one, I didn't see the first one when it first came out. I rented it the night before I saw the sequel because I wanted to see them both in a row, and I was left with some questions at the end of the original one. I was like, there's a couple of little plot holes there. I wonder what... They didn't explain that very well. And then this second movie really did a good job of answering those questions, I thought, which I like to see in a sequel.
Do you think that... So you watched both of both of these films back to back, whereas I waited maybe 9 months in between the two. Do you think that aided your cohesion and consistency when you were watching it? It felt like 2 days back to back.
I definitely do. I think that it's a great type of 2 movies to watch as like a little mini marathon, a double feature. Watch them both in a row, because there's so many similarities between them and so much continuity between them that I think it really benefits from watching them close together, a kind of binge watching approach. I would say if you haven't seen the first one, it's not like, don't see the second one without seeing the first one. You won't really know what's going on. It won't make as much sense. And even if you can follow the plot, like you're gonna miss out on a lot of little detail and a little back references, callbacks, in jokes. So you should definitely see the first one before you see the second one.
Okay, that's good to know. So we were mentioning Groundhog Day. And earlier in the week, I asked you, how much time do you think Bill Murray spends in Groundhog Day? And you guessed something a lot higher than I guessed. I guessed 5 to 10 years, and you guessed what, hundreds of years? Well,
I think the official explanation by some website that ran the numbers is I think 8.5 years. I don't buy it. I think that he was in there for a lot longer. I think he was in there for close to 100 years. That's just my perspective based on the stuff that you see him doing and how long he spends, being depressed or trying to kill himself or learning these incredible skills like playing the piano. I think he must have been in there a really, really long time. But the official explanation is it was 8.5 years.
So I really liked that this film explains basically how long that she's resetting herself. So she kills herself 11 times in the first film, or she's killed 11 times. So she spends 11 days in this loop, and in this next film she's in the day longer. She's in it for, she says, weeks.
So probably total of maybe 20 to 30 days, something like that.
So the second film cuts off, it begins basically where the first film ends. So the first film is Monday the 18th, her birthday, and instead of doing her birthday next year and her getting in a time loop again, it's the very next day that stuff starts to go wonky again.
Well, the cool thing about it is it starts in the same day that the first movie ends, the 19th, but it starts it from a different character's point of view. So you get to see the same day from another person's perspective, which is pretty fun.
Yeah, I wondered if that was going to be our new lead character, which I was going to be fine with as well, but he factors in a lot. So thinking about a threequel, who would you want? Would you want another character to be at the helm? Would you wanted to see Danielle or the main character's love interest, roommate Ryan? Would you want to see one of them, or would you want to see Tree again at the lead?
I want it to be largely the same cast and same characters that you see, but it might be fun to look at it from another person's point of view. Danielle would be fun. Yeah, the roommate Ryan would be fun. Someone altogether different that we barely got to know in the first one. I think we might get a little tired of Tree in the third movie. I do hope there is a third movie. There was one question in particular that I had at the end of the second movie, and I don't want to say what it is for spoilery reasons, but there was one thing I felt they left unresolved, and they usually did a really good job of tying up loose ends and explaining everything. So I have to believe that it was on purpose and that they're planning to explain it in the third movie. And so I really hope that they do that and bring that loose end together.
So that's the problem with time travel films or loop films, is that there's these artifacts or time holes that don't make sense, and I felt like they did do a good job in both of these outings.
Yeah, they did a great job, way better than most of these type of movies do. And I really, like I said, there's only one thing I had a question about. Everything else I thought made total sense. So I'm happy to see where it leads if they do a third film. And it seems like they're going to probably try to do a third film if this one does well.
This property was so popular that it ended up being one of the houses at Halloween Horror Nights at Universal Studios Orlando. Part of it anyway. Half was The Purge and half was Happy Death Day. So it was neat because as you kept coming into the bedrooms, it would be Tree's boyfriend's bedroom, but there would be a slight difference each time, and so that really worked out well because you felt like you were walking into the same room over and over, but you weren't. Would you recommend this film to other folks?
I'd absolutely recommend it. I thought the first movie was good, maybe like a 7 or something, maybe a 6, like a above average slasher film. I liked it, but I thought the second movie gave it so much more context and so much more depth and expanded the characters so much that as a pair, I'd definitely rate them higher than that, maybe close to an 8. I got a kick out of it. I had a lot of fun watching it, and I hope there's a third one.
Now, indeed, these are slasher films, but they are not unusually gory at all. So if you have kind of a weak stomach for that kind of thing, you'll probably be able to handle this.
Yeah, there's not very much gore at all. There's a lot of discretion in the shots.
I think it's PG-13. So stay tuned for our next episode. In the coming weeks, look for reviews of Jordan Peele's Us. And what else?
The other movies in the trailers that look good that I want to see are one called Greta and one called Ma, which are both, I guess there's a trend for like one-word short title horror movies now, but they both look pretty good. They're both kind of thriller horror movies. Allison's iPhone has run out of storage, so I'm filming the sign-off today. Thanks for watching Film Bouillabaisse, keeping it real with me, Logan, and Allison, and catch us next time. Bye!